Hello guys, thank you for coming to join me once again. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how we can validate our form using React, Hook Form, and Yup. So if you're interested, let me walk you through the demo of what we are going to be doing today. So it's not very much unusual that you have a form like this in your application that takes in an email, a password, a confirm password, an option, and some maybe remember me or agreements, and perhaps accept a toggle, and you want to validate all of this. So if you click on submit at this point in time, we see this. So it tells us email address is required and our password should have a minimum length of 5. So it tells us confirm password is required. We are going to choose our account type, click on the toggle, and let's start. So if we say test, so immediately we start typing from email is required, it tells us to provide a valid email address, and until we satisfy that, it will not let us pass. And our password should have a minimum length of 5. So if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I continue 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way to 12 or 13, it tells us our password should have a maximum length of 12. So if I go back to 1 to 5 and it passes and my confirm password doesn't match what I have in my password, I get the error as well. So it has to match, and then it satisfies it. We also have the option and our select drop down, so we can choose our account type, either commercial or personal, and it satisfies it. We can also go on to check our tick our checkbox, accept our toggle, and if we go on to submit the form, I just log it to the console. So over here we can see the form details. So toggle is true, remember is true, this is the password we typed, email, this is our confirmed password, and this is the account, the option that we chose, so personal. So if you're interested, I wrote out this article and I'll walk us through this article, and this is the end product here as well. So let's get started. See you in the code editor. Okay guys, so currently I have our React application, and in this React application we just have this, so we don't have any other setup here, but I have already configured Tailwind CSS. So if you want to check out how to configure Tailwind CSS in your React application, I have a course that I would link as well in this tutorial, so you know how to set up Tailwind CSS in your React application. So this is what we currently have, and if I visit localhost 3000, I just see this blank screen. So let's get started, and so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create our form component. So I'll come in my source folder and I'll create a component folder like this. And inside the components folder, I'm going to create a form folder. So we have our form, and inside there, I'm going to create a form.js file over here. And in here, I'm going to const form, which is going to be an arrow function where I'll just return a div that says form component, and export this as a default. Okay, so that's it. And the next I'm going to do, I'm going to import our form component in our app.js like this. Now we see our form component, and if we visit localhost 3000, we see our form component. So the next thing we're going to do is to have this JSX for our form. So I'm going to copy this, so from this return over here. Basically this is just building up the form, and it's not really that much important. This is just the form layout. So I'm going to copy all of this and come back to our form component, and I'll replace it with this. So this is some basic styling to get off started with creating our component, and we need to reference this text input class name over here. So I'll copy this and leave it over here. So now if I save and then we check out our form, now we see this form component that is over here. So the next thing that we are going to do is to, let's see, oh yeah, we have imported our form and we have this look which we just saw. Okay, so now let's get started with installing all that we are going to need for our validation. And I'm going to copy this command over here. So npm install as dev dependency, we'll be installing yop. We'll also install at hook form resolvers and react hook form. So let's see, yop is going to be our validation schema, okay? And this is going to be used to parse and work on our validation. React hook form is going to make sure our form layout is being our form input is valid. And hook sum resolvers is going to be used to integrate yop and react hook form together. So in our form component, we would need to import all of these. So coming to the top, we'll import useForm, and useForm is going to be imported from React hook form like this. And next up, we need to import everything as yop from yop over here. And lastly, we would import yop resolver from at hook form resolvers like this. So now we have our imports. In order for us to validate our input, we need to add a name. So we need to add a name attribute to all of our inputs. So for our email, I'm going to give it a name of email. And this name is important because in our schema, in our yop schema, they have to match. So when we start that aspect, you would see that they use for this name over here. And for password, we also give it a name. Sorry, not on the label. So on the inputs, I'm going to give the password a name of password. Confirm password will also have a name of confirm password. Account type is going to have a name of account type. Let's see. So remember, so we'll give it a name of remember, and let's see, and then our checkbox. So we're going to give it a name of toggle. Name is going to be equal to toggle like this. And if we save, obviously nothing changes. So we go back to our application, nothing changes yet, and we can submit a form that just refreshes our website. Okay, so that's the next step here. We have added the name attribute to our form component, and let's continue. So the next stage now is to sorry about that. So the next stage now is to build our form schema. So that's where yop would be very helpful in building out our schema. So in our source folder, I'm going to create a schema folder over here. And in our schema folder, I'm going to create a form schema.js file like this. And in this form schema, we are going to write our schema. So I would import everything, basically all that we have here as yop from yop like this. And now let's start writing our schema. So we'll say export const, so register schema. Basically in your application, this can be, you can give this any name that suits what the form is validating. So yop, and in the yop package, in the yop object, we have an object that we can call like this. And in this object, this function, we call the object function, and it takes a shape, and this shape is going to take in an object. So this object is where we are going to write out the different properties that we want, the different properties of our form schema. So in our form, this is the use for this name. So in our email has a name, and this name email over here has to match what we are writing here. So it has to be email like this by the key of the object. And now the value is going to be our validation. So we'll say yop yup.string, because email is going to be a string in our application, and this takes in a message. You can leave it like this, but you can also pass your costume image. Sorry, you can leave it like this, but you can also pass your custom message, and in this case we'll say email should not be empty. Sorry, email should be a string. And the next thing, email, and Yup has their regex expression that we can pass. We can pass in our own, but they have a very nice way of making sure that this email is a nice email. So we'll just leave it like this. And instead, what we are going to pass is our custom message, which is please provide a valid email address. So that's it. Yeah. So let's go on and add the last field, which is required. So, and the message we will pass is email address is required, like this. So now this string, make sure it's a string. .email, make sure that this is a valid email address, and .required, make sure that this field is as well required. And these are the error messages, custom error messages that we would get that we are passing into these functions. So we are going to save this. So in our form.js, we need to make use of the schema that we just created. So right here in my form, in the form JSX, I would cut this and make it an actual function body. So cut like this, and we need to return and return this. Fine. And now inside our form, we are going to have const, some things that we are going to be using off from this use form that comes from React hook form. So this is going to be equal to use form. I'll come back to what we are going to destructure. And use form, we call it, and it takes in an option. So the option it takes, one option it takes is a resolver. So this resolver is going to be, the value is going to be this yup resolver. So yup resolver. And this yup resolver is going to take in a schema, which is the form schema that we just created over here. So we'll say form schema, like this. And form schema. And let's make sure we are exporting this. Okay, we are, so register schema. So that's what we would use here, register schema, like this. And we go on to import register schema. Now inside here, this object, we need to take off some things from use form. So the first is register, second is handle submit, and third is our form state, which in this case will take errors like this. So register is going to be used to register our individual inputs so that use form is aware of them. And handle submit is what we will be passing to our form submit handler. It's going to be called automatically if our validation passes. And form state lets us keep track of the state of our form. In this case, we are keeping track of the errors state. So let's go on to register our email. And in order for us to register our email, let's see. Yes. So we have our input and register our email like this. And we're going to use the spread operator to take everything from register, and we're going to give it a name. So this name also has to match this name over here, which is email. So with this line of code already, React hook form is aware of our email and is going to go on to validate it. So this form, we are also going to be using the handle submit from here. So our handle submit, on submit is going to be equal to handle submit. So handle submit is going to be taking in a function that we would define. So we can come here and say const form submit handler, and automatically it's going to get data. Data is going to be our form values with an object of our form values with the key of this name as well. And we're just going to log data to the console like this. So we're going to take this form submit handler and I'm going to pass it to handle submit. So when this form gets submitted, handle submit is going to get called, which is what we call get from use form, and we are passing in our own custom function which would get this data automatically, and we're just logging the data to the console. At this point, let me see, yup, resolver. Okay, we need to import this from /yup like this. So at this point, if we come back to our application and we try to submit, the email should already start working. Our email validation should start working. So let's submit. Yeah, it's working, and that's why we are seeing here have this focus, but we're not using this errors object to know if we actually have an error or not. So in order for us to do that, I'm going to come over to our validation and I'm going to copy this. So this is, let me copy it first and place it over here. So we're taking the errors object and we're accessing the email property of the errors object. So if errors.email, if it exists, then we're going to show this error message. Otherwise, we are going to show null. Okay, so let's save and go back to our application. And then we see email address is required, because if we come to our form schema, that's what we are checking, is a required field. And if we go on to type in something else, it tells us to please provide a valid email address. So this email validation here kicks in, and we can say test@test.com. And it's a valid email address, it passes. So let's go on to validate our password and also our confirm password. So coming back here, so this is where we are at this point. So let's go on to validate our password and confirm password. So in order not to bore you with much typing, I'm just going to take this password and confirm password and explain to us. So I'm going to take this, come back here, and I will paste it. So password, and in this case, we are saying password should be a string. It should have a minimum length of 5. So we do that using .min, calling .min. So this is what is called chaining. So we are chaining different methods to this yup, and we are saying it should have a minimum length of 5, and password should also have a maximum length of 12. And these are the custom messages that we are passing in case of any of these errors. And also we are saying our password is required. Now for our confirm password, because we want confirm password to be able to match the password, we are saying okay, it should be a string, and we are saying one of. So this one of method is being takes in some argument. So the argument that we can pass to this one of is saying yup is an array. It takes in an array like this, and we're saying yup.ref. So this ref is going to make it reference this password, and this name has to obviously match one of the schemas that yup is keeping track of, and obviously we are also saying it is required. So now let's save this and let's come up to our form, because now we have to be sure that our form has the name of password and confirm password. So coming back to our form, yeah, it has the name of password and confirm password. So with that already, automatically our password and confirm password validation has kicked in. So let me copy the JSX for that. So I'll copy this and I'll paste this. Let's see here. Okay, so error.password, if it's there, we're just displaying the message. And for confirm password, I'm just going to copy this and paste here. So let's go back to our application and let's reload and try to save. So we see the validation comes in. So email is required, password is required, and confirm password is required. So if we start typing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't know. Let's see, perhaps we have missed out something. Let's come back to our form schema. Okay, minimum of 5, maximum of 12, and required. So it's still telling us password is required. Have we registered it? No, we have not registered our password and confirm password, and that's why the error continues. So let's register our password. We're going to register and give it the name of confirm password. Okay, and then let's also register our password. So we're going to register, and we give it the name, which is password. So now our validation should work as intended. So we can save. So password should have a minimum length of 5, and required password, confirm password is required. So if we start typing our password, and if we start typing our password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, our validation passes, and confirm password is required. So if we something that is different from our password, immediately we start getting an error message. So once we type the same that matches our password, this validation kicks in, and we can obviously test it. If we keep on typing and we go above 12, it errors out again, and if we come below, then the error is gone. And we try to submit, our confirm password validation kicks in as well at this point in time. So let's go on to validate our select dropdown, and basically this also works the same way, but there's something slightly different with this. So let's get started by registering so we don't forget. Not register. So let's see. Yeah, register. And register takes in the name, and this name is account type. So we're going to register this name over here. And that should be it from this point already. And now we can obviously, yeah, it's going to error out. Now we can take out the error message that is going to show. So let's come back to our validation. And before I come to this, we can just copy out this error message for our select. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here. So this is our error message, and we're having these errors because we have not defined the schema for account type yet. So coming over to our schema, so I'm going to add account type, and account type is also going to be yup dot, and now obviously string, and for the error message we can say account type should be a string. So if we save, I'm still getting some errors. We would look at it. Let's see. So account type also is one of. So because this account type is it works in a way where we can, let me see, have this account type, be it personal or commercial, and we want whenever the user submits it for these values to match. Okay, and that's why we're using this one off. So but now we're not referencing it to one of the properties here. So this is going to be one of what is takes in an array of what strings. So one of personal and commercial, like this. So this is a string, so account type should be a string, personal and commercial. So we can also add required, and required you can say account type is required, like this, and then we save. So let's come back to our form and see, maybe we've missed something. Account type is not defined. Let me see, where's the errors coming from? Line 97. Okay, register account type. Let's refresh our page. Let's save, and let me see. 97 register. Okay, account type should be a string. So now let's come back to application and then let's save. And if we try to save, we get account type is required, and let's choose commercial. The error goes. But if we come to this value, and because of our form validation, we have said this should be either personal or commercial, we can obviously come over here, and if I add another L here and I save and I reload our page, we try to submit, it tells us account type is required. But if I choose commercial, it tells me account type must be one of the following values, so either personal or commercial, because at this point in time the value here is wrong. But if I choose personal, we don't get the error. So this is how we can go on to validate our select form in React hook form. Now for remember me, we already have the name, and for checkbox, so let's go on to validate both of them. So in our form schema, I'm going to add for remember, which is a checkbox, and in remember we're going to say yup dot boolean. So boolean type, true or false, and this is going to be one of what? True, like this. So this is how we get to validate booleans using yup, okay, in our schema. And then we can display the error message, which is please tick checkbox, like this. And we can obviously go on to add for our toggle, which is the same. So yup.boolean, and yup.boolean would also be one of like this, and one of takes in an array of true, and then our error message, which is like this: please toggle accept, like this. So this is how we pass our custom error message, and this is how we get to validate our what checkbox or our toggle in our form. So coming back to our form, I would copy out the JSX because so it doesn't get so I don't get to mess with the styling over here. So let me start with the remember me, and I would copy, let's say, from here up to this point. Okay, and I would replace the content that I have here like this. So I hope I copied it correctly. I think I did, so there's no error. And let me copy that for the toggle. So from here, let me see, to this point, I guess, and let me replace this. Okay, so let me save and check if our application is fine. Okay, we haven't, let me reload, we haven't messed up our styling. And what are we doing here? Let me see. Okay, so I've already registered the name using the normal register, giving it the name, and now this is the error message. So errors of remember, if it is true, go on to show the message, and our toggle. So I've re-registered it, and this is the error message. So error.toggle, if it is true, go on to do what? Show the error message. And now if we try to submit our form, we see our error message. Please tick checkbox. If we tick, the error is gone, and if we accept our toggle, the error as well is gone. So in case you're curious, you can always come here and console.log errors. So you can log it to the console, and if we inspect, then you see our errors. You see the error object. So you can always log it to the console and be sure that you're checking the right value. So let me cover this. And yeah, so that's basically it. And if you get to provide the right value, so test.com, and you give it a password that matches, and you confirm your password, you select an account type that matches, and you have your checkbox ticked. So if you submit, you obviously not see anything in the console, but if you pass all your validation and you submit, then you can get your form values and send it to the backend or satisfy the need of your application. So that's it, guys. If you like this video, go on to support the channel, subscribe, and I'll try my best to be releasing contents like this. So see you guys later. Bye.